This episode might be the most almost I have felt all season. Because it's actually good. Not good for this show. Not better than last week, just good. And I still walked away irritated. Not because it failed, because it got really close enough that I leaned forward and then caught myself leaning. And I think that's the part that won't leave me alone. What's up, my know-it-alls? I'm not coming in here to tear this thing down. If anything, this is probably the first time this season I felt like the show was really blushing up against what it keeps promising that it is. That's why this is complicated, because when something is bad, it's easy. You diagnose it, you move on. When something is almost right, you start arguing with yourself. And that's what this episode did to me. The first place my brain starts poking at this is placement, okay? We're dealing with the psychological aftermath of the Miyazaki. Cadets saw death. Terima destabilizes. The institution absorbs shock. The kind of trauma wants an immediate processing episode. You don't cool the room and then ask everyone to cry 2 weeks later. If this had followed the Miyazaki episode directly, I think it lands differently. I think I surrendered to it. Instead, we had a tonal dissonance, a detour, if you will. The temperature dropped. The season pretended to stabilize. So when this episode asks me to sit in grief and existential reflection, I'm not raw anymore. I'm analytical. And that's not me being cynical. That's sequencing, okay? Emotion is temperature-based. You can't refrigerate it and then expect it to steam. And once I felt that, I couldn't unfeel it. Then it hits me. This episode isn't actually about the cadets. Not at all. It's not about Terima, all right? It's not about the academy life anymore. It's about the doctor, which means the entire emotional weight of this thing is resting on a legacy arc again. And I really try to judge what's on screen and not what I remember. But invoking him invokes Voyager. That's just reality. So when he says,
the only thing that allows me to bear my infinity is not having to love anyone.
My instinct is to flinch, because that's not where we left him. In Voyager, he learned the cost of love. He paid it. He grew through it. He didn't retreat from it. So now I'm sitting there thinking, is this regression? Or is this the show arguing that centuries of compounded grief have hardened him again? By the way, that's a fascinating idea. An immortal being who once chose love, deciding it's no longer sustainable. That's not cheap drama, that's tragedy. But here's the problem. If that's the story, it has to be dramatized, not declared. And I don't think it's fully dramatized, not one bit. Okay, there's one moment that absolutely sells it. The moment when Sam asks him to hold her hand.
Doctor, will you hold my hand? Please.
And he turns away. No speech, no explanation, just refusal. And the way it's staged was really important. They don't punch in aggressively. They don't swell the score to sort of underline it. They let it sit in medium framing just long enough that you notice the physical withdrawal. That's shutdown. That's behavior. It's storytelling. And I really found myself thinking, okay, yes, more of that. Because outside of that beat, a lot of the doctor's emotional state is communicated through dialogue. He says he's closed off, okay? He says infinity is easier alone. But when you're stewarding a character with this much history, you can't rely on our memory to complete the arc for you. If he's regressed, show me in the frame. Widen him when he should feel alone. Let silence stretch longer than comfort. Withhold warmth in the blocking, not just the words. Otherwise, I start wondering how much weight I'm supplying. And that's where the discomfort creeps in. If you stripped Voyager out of my brain, would this still hit the same? It's not rhetorical. I genuinely don't know. Because if you don't remember real life, then he's just an immortal who's tired. If you do remember it, then this line either feels like tragic erosion or like betrayal. The episode clearly wants tragic erosion, but I'm not convinced it earns that weight inside its own boundaries. And that's really a dangerous feeling for me to have, especially at this stage, because it starts to feel like legacy gravity is doing some lifting. Not maliciously, not even cynically, though I think an argument could be made, but really functionally. And I don't like not being able to tell the difference. The Cask arc is, I would say, conceptually very strong. Black and white world, photonic species, time dilation where 5 years equals 3 days, resetting Sam to infancy, 17 accelerated years. Symbolically, it sings, but symbol isn't mechanism. The episode suggests her emotional overload stems from not having a childhood. That resilience comes from lived developmental experience? Okay. But childhood doesn't automatically create stability. I would argue it actually creates complexity. So are we saying her architecture actually changes through experience? Or are we leaning into the metaphor because it feels right? The montage works, by the way. The color shift works. The intercutting with Our Town works. The Our Town play the cadets are doing. But again, I feel the show leaning on elegance of concept rather than behavioral grounding. And when I feel that lean, I pull back. I'm sorry. I just do. Let's go narrow for a second. Okay? The shuttle scene with Ake and the doctor, that should have been combustible. 2 people nigh immortal, 400 years, 800 years. This is where philosophy should really clash. Instead, it plays like an information exchange. The coverage is safe. Standard, over-the-shoulder, balanced eye lines, even pacing. There's no real escalation proximity, no invasive close-up that traps one of them in discomfort, no lingering silence that forces subtext to surface. And I really think that's far more important than we want to give it credit for, because if this scene had leaned into stillness, if the edit had allowed breath to turn into pressure, it could have felt like 2 people circling the unbearable question. If you live long enough, does love become irresponsible? That's the conversation I wanted. The scene brushes it. It doesn't really pierce it. And that's the episode in miniature. The Academy material is where I see the version of this show that works. Therapy through theater. Cadets processing trauma through performance. Mundane moments reframed as meaning. That's very Trek. But the cadets still feel slightly underserved, undertextured, if you will. And I don't feel curriculum pressure. I don't feel professional consequence. I don't feel the institutional grind that makes the emotional collapse inevitable instead of dramatic. Tarima's spiral is compelling, but I still reach for groundwork that isn't fully there. And that's the frustrating thing I find with this episode, because those flashes, they identify that the show keeps hinting at something. It's like watching someone almost find their voice and then hesitating. So here's the heartbreak. This episode goes close enough to the show. I want that. I start rooting for it mid-scene, and then I catch myself doing that and think, did you earn that? Or did I bring that with me? And that's not a comfortable question. Because if the answer is I brought it, then the episode is coasting a little on nostalgia. If the answer is it earned it, then I need to see clear evidence in execution. Right now, I'm stuck between those 2 things. So here's where I land. It's ambitious. It's very thoughtful. It contains moments that genuinely work. It's structurally misplaced. It leans on legacy gravity, and I think it gestures a deeper philosophy than it fully commits to. It's definitely above average. It's frustrating. It's almost. And I still can't fully separate how much of my reaction belongs to this episode and how much belongs to Voyager. I genuinely want to know where you stand on that. Did this episode earn its emotional weight for you, or did you feel yourself supplying some of it? All right, so there you go. Now you know. And if knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's the know-it-all index for this episode of Starfleet Academy? All right. So let's real quick walk it through how we got here. It's ambitious, it swings, it lands in places, it stumbles in others. It shows real promise while exposing structural wobble. It's above average, and I think it definitely could have been better. And that's why I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10. Yeah. Would love to know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Does this hit home? Are there things you didn't like about it more than I didn't like about it? It's hard to get into a lot of the messy stuff that everybody else wants to talk about because, again, I'm looking at structure. I'm looking at some things that sort of make the show fall short for me in my own personal expectations, and that's okay. By the way, you can love everything this did, and I'm not going to harangue you about it. I mean, I'm really not. But for me, I wanted more. And the show just kind of fell into almost. So, all right, we got 2 more episodes to go, and I can't wait to really talk more about those things. And we'll see all about that. But all right, guys, I'll talk to you again soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all. Bye, guys.